All right, welcome. This is our first ever podcast on Oso Archery. I'm joined today with Kenny.
What's up, everybody?
He drove out today to hang out and
talk about the day, I guess.
Yeah, so tell me about what you did. You went fishing?
We went fishing. We started off, we had other plans, and they didn't work out, so then we pivoted. We went on a little bear scouting trip, turned fishing trip, went with my 5-year-old son, and while we're out there, we're doing a little filming for the YouTube channel.
Okay.
So, it was pretty fun.
What lake did you go to?
Not going to tell you.
Okay. Was there fish, though?
Lots of fish. So we were starting off. I was setting up my scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my boy was like, I want to fish. So I was like, all right, threw it out there. Before it even hit, so I had power bait on.
Okay.
And before it even hit the ground.
You still have power bait on your face.
I still have power bait. Yeah, probably was like, I got power bait everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so before it even hit the ground, there was already a hit.
That fast?
That fast. I was like, oh, crap. Started reeling it in. He's like, let me reel it in.
Uh-huh.
So I give him the pole. Right when he does it, falls off. And I'm like, all right, let me just do this again. Put some power bait on there. Threw it out there again. He doesn't know how to use the pole yet. Throw it out there. Again, right when it hits the water, it starts going down. Another hit.
That fast?
Yeah. Get that one on. Give it to him. He reels it in. Catches it. Nice little, 10
smaller
inch
fish.
Yeah, 10-inch fish. And I was like, oh, God, I'm not going to be able to film my video today.
Because you thought fishing was going to be too good?
Yeah, the fishing was good.
Okay.
So, do that. He's like, all right.
I was wondering what was taking you so long.
Yeah, it was mostly my boy there.
I called you a couple times and it went straight to voice message and I was like, oh, shit, maybe he's lost up there.
We were pretty much lost. But, yeah, so then, anyways, then we got it out there again, no bites. So I was like, all right. So I started setting my stuff up, and all of a sudden he's like, a bite. I was like, all right. I run back over, hook another one, and it was probably 3 or 4 fish like that.
Did you guys keep them?
So I let the first one go, and he was like, and I let it go, and he's like, oh, I thought we were going to keep it and eat it. I was like, no, we're not keeping no fish. And so he was kind of bummed that we didn't keep none of the fish.
Okay.
But, yeah, so then after that, after about 2 hours of just slaying fish, I was like, all right, you're not fishing no more.
Did you just pull the water? Did you pull the pole out
I
of the water?
pulled the pole. I was like, I hiked up a chair up there.
Okay.
So I brought that over, and I was like, all right, you're just going to sit here and watch me film.
Okay.
So I let him hit the record button and everything. So he helped. It actually did help a lot once he was actually hitting the record button and talking the whole time.
Is this a lake that you have to hike to?
Yep.
Is it a known trail hiking or spot, or is it like a bushwhack? No,
it is, yep.
It's a trail?
Yeah, it's like a mile-long trail.
You see anybody else up there?
There was.
Was there?
Yep. So when we first started going up there, it was kind of rainy-ish a little bit, and nobody at the trailhead. So we started going, got up there, and when I was just messing around with the equipment, and I was like, blah, 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 I just see 2 dudes walk through the woods, and they're like, what is going on out here? Okay. I had my camera set up, and my boy was hitting record, and the guy slipped on a log and fell, ate crap.
Were they fishing, or what were they
They were
doing?
fishing, yeah.
Fishing?
A lot of people go up there to fish.
Okay, so it's a good fishing spot.
It is.
You have to take me up there sometime.
We will.
It'd be kind of fun.
Oh, it would be. But we can't be filming, though, because it's too much.
Yeah. Was there a lot of snow up there, or is it just a little bit up high?
There was just a little bit. So we were pretty much probably 500 feet from the snow elevation, so.
Did you guys get up there in the rain?
No, it wasn't really raining that much.
It was raining so hard here this morning.
Was it?
Oh, man. And then out of nowhere, it just started getting sunny.
It turned out to be a real nice day.
Mm-hmm. It really did. I got done with that. We went out and did some grocery shopping, and then afterwards we got home. I went out there and cut up all that cedar.
Yeah, there's a lot of cedar out there.
Those big rounds, huh?
Smells good.
Those are big rounds. Yeah, now the boys got to chop them all up into firewood. That's the hard part.
If my boy was old enough, I'd send him over here, too.
It's good for them.
It is.
When they're that young, you know.
So,
saves my back.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about where you start when you first learn how to go hunting, or where you would even start to be able to start hunting.
Yeah.
And, you had to start during COVID.
Yep.
And tell us about how that all went down.
Yeah, so
hey, let's start over first, though. I mean, what got you to want to hunt? It was us running.
Yeah, so we started doing the, 100-mile march.
Yeah, we were running the 100-mile march, and halfway through that month, we were talking about how I need to find a good hunting partner because all the hunting partners I've had in the past just can't handle it, and they don't want to...
And I was like, I'm dumb enough, I could do that.
They don't want to drop into hell holes. They don't want to, hike for 10 miles a day and have blisters on their feet, and... So, we got to talking about it, and you were down to try it.
Yeah, sounds good. How did you get into hunting?
So, I was so young when I started. My dad pretty much put a bow in my hand when I could barely walk.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I started with a recurve, and I was shooting 3D targets and doing that for all the way up till I was like, 10 or so, and he would take us along with him.
Yeah.
But most of the time we were truck hunting and, just having a good time with Dad, so...
Yeah, that's always a good time, though.
I think I was like maybe 10 years old when I shot at my first deer.
Okay.
Missed over in eastern Washington, so that's where most of the places we hunt over there. But we never did no elk hunting, really. It was
pretty wide open over there, for the most part?
Where we were at, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and then I kind of fell out of it through all high school. I kind of got out of it, and then, I married the wife, and I don't know what happened. I was into cars, and out of nowhere, I was like, man, I miss shooting a bow. So I went down to Cabela's and picked up just a cheap bow. And
yeah, so your dad never did no rifle hunting or nothing?
No, it was always archery hunting. He always had a bow, and most of the time whenever he would go out and take us out, if he saw something, he'd be like, stay here, I'm going. He would just bail out of the truck and leave us 10? Sitting there, yeah. Or
and you were the oldest, right?
Yeah. Or we'd be hiking along, and my dad would say, oh, there's a deer, stop. And he'd be like, don't move. And he would just leave us boys there. And there was a couple times where me and Joe were sitting there, and an hour would go by, and we're like,
is he coming back?
Where's Dad? He's gone. And so,
should we call SOS?
What we would do, we'd be like panicking, and we'd just start screaming for him at the top of our lungs, which is, never good for the guy that's trying to kill a deer.
Yeah.
But...
Did he ever blame you guys?
No. He'd always say, what happened? What happened? And we'd be like, we thought you were lost.
No, we were just trying to find you.
Yeah, it was, at that age, it was kind of scary, but,
Looking back, though, that's probably good memories, though.
Oh, yeah, they're great memories. A lot of fear instilled into me, and it's good for you.
And that's when you were like, I need to get Onyx.
Well,
I don't think Onyx was even a thing yet.
Actually, my first year I went elk hunting by myself. I didn't have Onyx. I didn't have anything. And to be honest, I didn't really want to get that far away from the road just because I was by myself in an area I really didn't know that well, and I'd get like 500-600 yards off a road, and I'd be like, okay, that's far enough.
You're like, I might get lost out here.
Which you're never gonna see nothing that far off the road unless you get really lucky.
Oh, we've gotten lucky like that.
So me and my grandpa, where I went elk hunting for my first year, we went scouting up there. He took me up there, and we were driving the roads going up to a trailhead, and I remember looking over at this little meadow, and there was a cow standing out there. And
this is with your grandpa?
Yeah, with my grandpa, and we were in July, and I told him, I was like, man, that's a good meadow. There's elk in there. And when I went back there that year for my first elk hunt by myself, I brought a blind with me. I brought my Fox Pro with me. And I sat in my blind and I played elk sounds on my Fox Pro.
That probably didn't help much.
No. I sat there for like 3 or 4 hours and I was like, all right, there's nothing around here. So I went back to the van and slept in the van, and I stayed there for 2 days, and I said, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. What kind of hunting gear did you have then?
Walmart.
Because you were fresh.
Walmart. Everything
so
was just cotton. It was all bad. It was my work boots. It was... I was going just...
Work boots probably weren't that bad. Or were they steel-toed boots?
No, they were just normal work boots, but...
Yeah.
It was like, it was just one of those things where you're just not... You don't even know what you're getting yourself into at all. But it was fun.
Yeah.
I did that for... So I only stayed for a couple days that time, and then the next year I was like, all right, I'm getting into it more. And I went back to the same spot.
With the blind again?
Nope, no blind. I actually went back there with a tree stand, thinking that I would tree stand hunt over that meadow.
Pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much the same thing, and pretty much the exact same thing happened. I went there with the tree stand. I didn't even set the tree stand up.
You just stood there.
I just got in the meadow.
I'm not going to go too far out here.
I decided that year was when I decided I'd learn how to cow call, and I couldn't make a sound for nothing. Like, it was horrible
sounded
sounds.
like mice.
My cow sounds were like, they were terrible. And I remember talking to this guy, and he's like, if you want to kill elk, you got to sound like elk. And
when he
told me,
heard you.
I don't know if he heard me or not, but when he told me that, it clicked, and I was like, all right, I got to put some effort into my calling.
Yep.
And then I started really just working on my calling. And then for the next like 3 or 4 years, you know, I would go out, and I brought a couple of different people with me, and they just, you know,
we wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, they did, but they didn't. You know, it's like my dad went with me one year, and he was sick, and he wanted to hunt, and he tried to hunt, and me and him got out there opening morning, and we actually called a cow in, but by then the rules changed, and we could only hunt spikes.
Spikes, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because most of those Eastern Washington units are spikes now.
Yeah, unless you draw a cow tag, unless you go real far east. So then I decided we're going to try Western Washington, and that was a whole new experience.
A lot of bush.
A lot of bush.
A lot of bush, a lot of rain.
It rained. We went for 9 days. Me, Adam, and Kevin.
Yep.
And in those 9 days, I think it rained every day.
How much elk did you see?
0.
0 elk. A lot of rain.
Yeah, and it was...
How was that on the mental?
That was rough. After that, I was thinking, like, I don't want to come back over here. And we were over on the coast. And I just, you know... I told my dad, I was like, I can't be hunting. No, there's no elk over here. They don't even talk. The year before we went to, I was over in Eastern Washington, and I got my calling to where it was a little bit better, and actually called in 2 bulls that year.
Nice.
Even though we were looking for...
That's probably ego boost right there.
Yeah, we were looking for spikes, but it was like whenever I called those bulls in, it was like, man, this is fun. So then I was like, let's hunt, you know, bulls over on the coast, thinking it'd be the same.
We could find some big bulls
over on the coast. And bugled, and we ran into people that say, the elk don't talk here, and you know, it was just one of those things where it was real hard on the...
Got to change up the strategy.
Yeah, it was hard on the game for sure. So then me and you got together.
Yep.
In March, started running, and you had to go through
Hunter's Ed
during COVID. So how was that? That all online?
It was all online, and the field test was all online. So
yeah, I think
I don't know how the state was thinking that that's a good thing. But
I think there was a lot of people that pushed through that, like just to get it out of the way, because there was no field test, and you could just cheat almost.
No, there was a field test.
Online?
Online, yeah. It was nice.
Everybody could get through it, no problem.
It was nice.
Riley went through it, but I made him actually study it, and the boy got his all done up and whatnot. So.
He did it during COVID too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's the difference? So now, do you field test, you actually have to go to a place and
So Mariah, my oldest daughter, just went through Hunter's Ed.
Yep.
And so she had to do all of her class online. And she did all of the main test and everything, and then she had to schedule a field test, and we had to show up at a gun range with like 30, 40 other people.
Yeah, were they all younger?
No, there was actually, surprisingly, I would say the majority was like, you know, late 20s, early 30s, somewhere in that range. So there was...
That's about when I started.
There was a couple little kids, like 5, 6-year-old kids, and it was cute watching them run around. But yeah, so we went there, and she just, you know, the instructors just... pretty much went through everything on a screen on the TV, and then they handed them a gun and walked around and made sure they were safe with it. And freaking Mariah, they have you walk over a fence, and you're supposed to hand your gun off to your partner.
Yeah.
And they hold it and they say, okay, come on over, and then you go around and they hand it back to you.
Okay.
And the one thing they tell you to do is watch your barrel.
Watch your barrel, yep.
Right? So she unloads the gun perfectly, hands the gun over to her partner, walks around, gets the gun from him, goes to load it, and as she loaded it, she had a break-action shotgun.
Okay.
She broke open the barrel, and when she broke open the barrel, it's pointing right at her partner.
Oh.
Yeah, and the instructor just goes, BAM! And grabs the barrel and goes, don't point that at her! And I was like,
she's like, there's no
like,
ammo
that's
in
my
there.
daughter.
There's not a shell in there.
Yeah, that's what she looked like. She was like, oh, God, I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble. Am I going to pass now?
Yeah, but...
Aren't they supposed to fail you if you do that, or
They say that if you're neglecting it like multiple times and they can tell you're like really not trying, that they'll drop you there. But I think you got to be pretty dumb to be able to fail those.
I think we should link the hunter's ed and all the information.
Yeah, we can link that down in the description for sure.
Just in case you guys are just getting into hunting, we'll link it in the bottom.
Yeah.
That way you can make it a lot easier.
Yeah, we'll just leave the link in the description where you can just click on it and you'll be right at the Washington Gov page to be able to sign up for it. And it wasn't even that. It's not too expensive, really. I want to say it was like $60 or something to take the test and then the field. So it's not bad.
I think probably Monday through Friday, so you might have to take a day off.
Yeah.
Go in there.
And then
worth it though.
And then once you pass that, really you're in. You're done, you're ready to go. Now it's just buying your equipment and start looking into where you want to hunt, what you want to hunt. And I would suggest starting off with deer. I think deer is going to give you the most opportunity.
Deer's everywhere.
And then if you're going archery, I mean, your first bow was a Cabela's bow.
Yep.
Mine was a Cabela's bow. There's nothing wrong with them.
No. Would you change anything?
If I went back to do it all over again, I don't think I would. I think I would have stuck with trying to keep it simple.
Yeah. I think if I were to go back, it's a good idea to start cheap.
Yeah.
But when you do that, my Cabela's bow, right before we went elk hunting, I think 2 years in. So I'd already had the bow for 2 years. So
yeah,
I'd shot it a lot. And then my groups were good. And then
so hang on, before you say that though, you had your bow for 2 years because you didn't get to actually hunt.
Right? I was hunting.
Where you were hunting, but you were hunting like weekends, right?
Weekends for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't really get to go on any like actual hunting trips.
I think I went on one.
Did you?
We went elk hunting with that bow.
The first year?
Yep.
Was it?
Second year.
Okay.
Second year we went.
But you shot the crap out of that thing.
Yeah, I was shooting it a lot. And I had my groups pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was probably 2 or 3 weeks before we were going elk hunting. And they were just going all over the place. And I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I sent you a picture and you were like, oh, that's got camlein.
That's got bad camlein. Yeah.
And I was like, what's camlein?
Yeah.
And
so camleins, whenever you got 2 cams on your bow, I don't know if you can see mine here, it's got, on both ends here. And when that cam is in your bow and it just is leaning just a little bit, it's off center because the strings are pulling harder on one side, it just won't allow you to shoot anywhere near consistently. It'll be all over the place. And it happens all the time.
Yep.
It's super common.
Yeah, and then you were saying, I think you have target panic or something.
Yeah,
I was like, what? There's no way.
Yep.
There's no way it's target panic.
Yep.
I've been doing this. It's just out of target.
Yep.
I'm not going to get it. And I sent you that picture and you're like, oh, that's camlein. I'm like, what? So then I took it into Cabela's and they got a really good return policy there. So their bows, like if you buy their...
And you took it in right before hunting season.
Right before hunting season.
It was like, what, August?
Or yeah, it was a few weeks.
Yeah, it was before we were supposed to go out.
And I was like freaking out. I was like, oh, I'm not going to have a bow.
Yeah.
So I sent it in. The guy was like, I don't know when this is going to be fixed.
Yep, I remember that.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go buy another bow.
Yeah.
So I went out and bought Prime Logic.
Yep, you went down to Van Winkle's.
Yep, Van Winkle's down there in Everett.
I highly recommend them. If you guys are anywhere near Everett, they're a great shop and you really should support them for sure. The owner there, he's a great guy.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, I went in there and I just bought a bare bow and then I just walked around and grabbed all the other accessories. He threw it on there and...
Yep, and he ended up getting a Prime.
Yeah, I got a Prime Logic.
That's what I shoot, is a Prime. I love Prime. Prime has been super good to me.
Yeah, so...
And they come with free strings, so if you buy a Prime, you get free strings for life.
I don't know if that's anymore, though.
Is it not?
I don't think so, because when I went in there, I got new strings.
Maybe that's only for the dual cams.
Well, no, because mine's dual cam.
Yeah, I know, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Did you pay for your string?
No. Well, I haven't got it back yet.
Oh, so you don't know
So
yet.
it's still in the boat. It's still in the shop.
I don't think you're going to pay for it.
No, I don't think so, because he was saying if you bought this within 2 years, then I don't think they do the free strings no more.
Really?
I could be wrong. But he was saying something about that.
Check into that a little bit.
Yeah, so, and I was like, no, I bought it like 2 years ago from here, and he was like, all right, so. Anyways, yeah, after that, I'm still waiting on my bow.
Yeah, because
I told him I'm not in a rush or anything. So.
It just broke on you not too long ago.
Yeah, exploded.
Yeah, that was fun.
And so it wasn't even a string. Wasn't a string that broke. It just unraveled somehow.
That's weird.
Yeah, he said it just unraveled and came off the cam.
Maybe the serving came undone.
Yeah, something happened, so it's in the shop. Hopefully, I didn't destroy it because it
No.
was making a weird noise for a
You-
while.
You do shoot a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing with you guys is if you buy a new bow and you're shooting it a lot, make sure you guys are changing your strings or at least having a shop check on your strings probably once a year, I would say. And, you know, take it down in January, February when it's slow, you'll be able to get it in and out quick. That's definitely what
Yeah,
we
so I
did.
think what destroyed it was when we went elk hunting the year before. It was raining the whole time, and it was just rough on the bow.
Last year was hard on the bow.
Yep.
Yeah. My strings were absolutely hammered.
Yeah.
And that was my second year.
You just got new strings, right?
I just got new strings on my bow, yeah.
Did you say they were fine though, or?
Yeah, he told me mine were fine. He said that he actually gave them back to me and told me that I could use them as backup strings.
Really?
And they look pretty beat up to me, but
yeah, they can take a beating.
they can. They really can. I would say one thing though, I don't know if you can really get them nowadays, but the Cabela's bow that I bought was a solo cam.
Mm-hmm.
The solo cams are like perfectly round on top. Have you seen those?
I have not.
So they're like a perfectly round. I don't know if they make them anymore, but man, that bow right there you couldn't get it to be untuned. Like once you dialed it in, it would stay that way. Those solo cams.
You sold that one?
I did.
You sold it, yeah.
Yeah, I sold it because.
What a shame.
Well, my dad.
Had that as backup.
I know my dad won a bow in a shooting contest, in a 3D shooting contest, and he gave it to me, and it was a Hoyt Defiant Pro, and it was like a 30-inch draw, which I'm a 27 and a half.
So you were just cranking it back.
So I'm like, shooting this bow like this, and the cams that were on that bow were super aggressive. So I'm back in the back wall, and every time I'm getting ready to hit the trigger, it's so aggressive, it feels like it's pulling me out.
Yeah.
And it was giving me target panic really bad, like to the point where I didn't even like shooting. So I ended up getting a hold of Hoyt and changing the cams on the bow to where the right draw length, and it was like, I don't know if it was just ingrained with me with the bow, but I was scared to shoot it. I didn't. It was just the target panic was that so bad with that bow. That ended up, and a lot of people love that bow, like really love it. The Defiant.
Was that a 70 pound or 80 pound?
That one was 80 pound.
The Cabela's one?
No, the Cabela's was 70.
That was 70.
The Defiant was 80 pounds, and it was only 80 pounds because when I called them to get the cams, they sent me the cams. We put them on there. And for some reason, we don't know why, because usually it's only limbs that change your weight.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it changed the weight to 80 pounds. Don't know why. Even the archery shop I took that when I was working with Riverside up there and I was dealing with them. That's where they put it on there and they were like, man, we don't know why it went up, but it went up. I'm like, okay.
Something happened.
Well, I should be able to pull it. Let me see. And I could pull it fine.
Yeah.
And it was, the bow shot when I was shooting good with it, it shot really good.
And after that, you were like, I need to do 80 now.
I like 80 pounds. I really do. I just, if you can shoot it, why not?
Yeah, that's true.
It's not.
I'm debating 80.
Are you?
I am.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend the $300-400 to change my cams and the limbs and everything.
So I ended up selling that bow and getting rid of it, and I bought the Prime. And I haven't looked back, and I don't think I'll ever, maybe 10.
As you look back at it.
10, 15 years from now, I might buy another new bow, but I love that bow.
Yeah, I love my Prime too.
I just put 80-pound limbs on that, so.
Yeah, so if I was to go back, my very first bow, I think I do like the Cabela's one just because it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Gets the job done. But after spending all that money on that and then buying an expensive bow, I could have just bought...
You would have rather just go straight to the expensive bow?
I think I would have just went right to the expensive bow.
Yeah.
And then not have to worry about
I think it's like new
cars
though. Like you might go down and buy a brand new truck, and that brand new truck is going to be perfect, or you might go down and get that exact same truck, and it might be something you just have problems with. My truck was brand new, and I had problems with it nonstop.
Yeah, that might have been the one the technicians were out doing Brody's
you know
in the
what I
back
mean? So it's like
lot.
Not saying that if I would have bought a more expensive truck that one would have been better, but it's like maybe you just had the Cabela's bow that was gonna get cam lean out of it.
No matter what.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But
But I wonder, could it have been how I was pulling the bow too?
How you're pulling it back?
Yep.
Maybe. It's hard to say. There's so many variables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning it was shooting fine, and man, that gave me a heart attack. It really did.
I remember how panicked you were. You're like, dude, it's hunting weeks in like 3 weeks. What do we do?
I was like, Cabela's ruined my hunting trip.
And then you were like, I'm taking the bow down to Cabela's to get it fixed. And then you called me up and you're like, man, it's like 3 weeks to get it back. I might not get it back before we go. And I was like, dude, just go buy a new bow.
And I did.
Yep.
I think I...
And you loved it, right? When you bought it, you started shooting it.
Oh, yeah, it was nice. Yeah, I should have just bought that right off the get-go.
Yeah, it's hard to say, though, whenever you look back on it and, you know, you should have, would have, could have. But then again, you know, you were trying to start off cheap. When you start archery hunting, it's expensive. It's really expensive.
It really is.
You're looking
Even
at...
if you're going the cheapest route possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, you know, 8 years ago when I first got back into it again.
Yeah.
And for my bow, for my arrows, for my release, for all my hunting clothes... you know, even going with Walmart clothes, I was pushing probably close to $1,000 with everything.
Oh, easy.
So, you know, and if you go down and buy one of the more expensive bows, right off the bat, you're going to spend $3,000 on the bow and the sight and the quiver and everything. You're going to, you know, they're not cheap.
No, they're not.
So personally, I think when you first get into archery, I think going cheap there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah, well, you never know if you're just getting into it. What if you only do it for a year and you're like, this isn't for me?
Yeah.
But right when I got that first bow, I was hooked right away. I was like, this is what I'm doing.
You weren't hooked until you heard your first bugle.
That as well.
When you heard your first bugle, you were definitely, that's what, your eyes got bug-eyed. And
man, I went cross-eyed.
Yeah, you were like, oh, that's what this is?
Yeah, hearing your first bugle is game-changing.
Yeah.
It really is.
There's nothing out there that's can compare to it when you hear that bull out in the distance.
Yeah. I think the very first thing that got me into it was like, you're like, we're going to go on a nice little 4-mile hike. And then we're 4 miles in. You're like, all right, we just started.
I'm really bad.
Like, we just started. You said 4 miles.
I'm really bad when it comes to that kind of stuff. Hey, we only got, it's like from where we're going to start to our camp, it's like going to be 6 miles.
You said 4.
When we get there, it ends up like 10 miles and freaking 2,000 extra feet of elevation.
Yeah, so then we get up to the top. It was a super dry year, and we're at the very top, and then we don't have no water.
You're talking about when we went over to the coast, right?
Yep, we went to the coast.
Yeah.
So we get to the top, no water.
Yeah, I told him it was going to be like I told you it was going to be like, what, a 6 mile hike or something like that?
No, you said 4.
Was that the 4 mile one?
That's the 4.
Yeah, no,
you said 4 miles, and then it ended up being like 8.5, 9.
Yep.
Then we get to the top, and then we're like, crap, we don't have no water. We drank all of our water. There's no water up here.
And we got up there, and we run into other people that are like, you hiked all the way in from the bottom? You know, you could have just went around a mile, and there's a gate right there. And we're like, holy crap.
We could have looked at Onyx a little better on that one, for sure.
Well, we had plans to go to a different area, and fires that year were bad.
Yeah, the fires, yeah.
And they ended up pushing us out of that area because our wives were worried about it. We were going to be like 15, 20 miles away from it.
I think it was even closer than that.
Something like that.
It was one of the big fires.
Yeah. We had it all planned out to where we were going to go, and then like a week before we had to change plans.
Yeah, big fires. So we're like, let's pivot. Let's go somewhere you never wanted to go again.
Somewhere where I didn't want to go again, but I kind of knew the area a little bit, and I thought maybe we can go there and
check it out at least.
See what happens.
I mean, we didn't see any elk, but we did hear.
So we hiked all the way up there. We dropped down like 1,500 feet, something like that, like a major drop to get water at last light. Got all the way back up to camp, made food, went to bed, and I slept like a baby.
I did not sleep at all.
You didn't sleep at all, and you said you heard cows.
Yeah, I heard some chirping.
Yeah,
some chirping. There's some really nice game trails right underneath where we were sleeping.
Yeah. And for some reason, we woke up and we decided we would leave.
Yeah. I remember you looking at me like, what's wrong with your face?
Yeah, well, I woke up and I was like, dude, what's wrong with your face? And his face was swollen on this side. Like, it looked like he got stung by a bee. Like, a couple of them. It was just sticking out. And I was like, dude, something's wrong with your face.
I was like, yeah, my
tooth hurts.
My tooth hurts.
Yeah.
I had the gnarliest headache, had an abscess tooth, and you're like, should we be done? I was like, no.
No, yeah.
Nothing's going to stop us from elk hunting.
But we decided to get out of there, and we decided
nice little 4 mile hike back.
Yeah, we hiked out of there. On the way down, we chased grouse.
Yep, chased some grouse. You almost got one.
Yeah, not close enough.
No.
And then we got back to the truck and we drove halfway across Western Washington to a completely different unit.
Yep.
That we've never even been in. My dad always told me, like, this is where I elk hunted when I grew up. And
30 years ago.
There's a ton of elk there. You guys should get back there and check it out. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe. I know how you are. With, I know how you are when it comes to, there's always elk there. There never are there, but.
They're always there, though.
But this time, he was right. We got there.
Not where he said, but
we didn't know right away. We didn't know right away. We got there and we checked out a couple gates and nothing. It was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And then the next morning we chased pine cones for 2 hours.
Yeah. Those are big elk pine cones, though.
There were squirrels up in these trees and they were knocking pine cones down out of them. And every time the pine cones would hit the ground, it would sound like sticks breaking. And I'd be like,
they're over there. They're running.
They're elk over there. Let's go. We gotta keep following them. And me and Kenny chased freaking pine cones around for at least 2 hours.
At least, minimum.
Yeah.
And then I seen one fall. I was like, dude, they're pine cones falling out of the trees.
And then it was...
Now, I think the next day, then we...
was it that night we had those cows at the gate?
Yes, because we hiked all the way down. We're out there. It was like, there's no elk anywhere around here. And when we're hiking back, then you're like, I got to use the bathroom. I was like, dude, come on. We're almost back to the truck. Let's go.
Yeah, it was last light. I was I got to take a dump, dude. This is bad.
Yeah. I'm just standing there, whatever.
But before that, right before I told you I had to go, I told you I thought I smelled elk.
Yeah, you're like, I smell elk. I was like, I don't smell nothing.
Yeah.
And then you got done dumping. And then we were just walking. We weren't even being that quiet, really.
No, we were talking.
We were talking, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
I heard some sticks breaking.
Heard some sticks.
Yep.
And I was like, really?
Heard some sticks breaking, and then it got louder and louder, and then...
Yeah, there's probably like 10 minutes left of shooting light.
Yeah, the next thing you know, we're standing in the middle of the road, looking a little bit uphill into like some marshy area where it's a lot of ferns, and it was thinned out in there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, just materializing out of the dark timber.
Yeah.
Cows. A bunch of them.
Yeah, at least.
There were probably
10 of them. Because I heard some, once we seen them, I heard some down below us. So they were up above us and down below us, going across.
They're probably 80 yards out. So we were hoping they were coming, and they almost did. If we had 10 more minutes.
Yep, 10 more minutes.
Would have probably killed one. And in that unit, you could hunt cows.
Yep.
So we were going to take the first opportunity we can. We were like, 20 yards from the gate?
Yeah, it would have been a nice pack out.
Been almost too good. I'm glad I did.
Yes.
Looking back.
Yeah, that would not have been... It would have been fun having all that meat in the freezer.
Yeah. And then the third day, you heard your first response.
Yep.
In what we call the hellhole.
The hellhole. But, looking back, it's pretty hard to kill them over there because where they are, they're on private land.
Yep.
And they never come into public, really.
Yeah.
So we messed around with those guys for a while. We had, 3 bugling around us?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, midday? We dropped halfway down and no, it was that morning we heard a bugle.
Yep, from there.
From there.
So then we went down in there.
Yep, and then it got quiet, and then we decided, all right, we can't hear them no more, so let's go back up.
Yep, back up.
Got elevation, and we just got into a little party where they were screaming at us, but they were
far.
halfway. They were across the draw, and over on the private, and there was no chance that they were going to come over in the middle of the day. And we weren't, at that time, we still weren't really good at our calling.
No.
I can make sounds. No.
No. No. I'm just barely starting to get the calls.
You're getting better. But
it takes a long time to learn calls.
Well, it's not only...
So if you want to learn calls, you better start now.
We'll have to do a whole podcast.
5 years.
We'll do a whole podcast on calling.
Yeah.
Calling.
Maybe I'll pull out my bugle tube and let one rip.
Yeah, there's a whole lot to calling, but then it took me forever to make the sounds, and once I made the sounds, I still didn't know exactly what I was saying. And so when we got those elk fired up, I didn't know what I was really saying.
Yeah, I was just making random calls.
Yeah, so...
My random calls, it didn't scare them away, though.
No, the chance of them coming over was probably not good, but, you never know, right? So you got to try.
I mean, better off than just sitting there
But that was the last night we could stay. We had to leave.
Yeah, we had to leave after that.
And that was our first year elk hunting, and you were hooked.
Right away.
So going back, though, to the very beginning, you know, when you first started, you still kind of like to have the cheaper clothes.
I still do.
Yeah.
For some reason, just for me, like clothing, I beat the crap out of it. So, like, if I buy something nice, the first day I'm hitting a sticker and it's ripping, sticker bush or something.
But I've noticed with you when it comes to buying like hunting gear, you go with the cheaper one, and I am to the point now where I like to go with the most expensive thing I can afford, because I think it's something, it's an investment, and it's one of those things where you're gonna want to just have the best of the best if you can afford it. And so I buy high quality gear, and I always tell you, man, if you can do it, get it, because you're gonna want it.
For some reason
you always cheap out.
I go cheap.
I'm like,
cheap
dude,
at
get
heart.
the good boots. Trust me, get them. And then you're like, yeah, work boots will be fine. And then
and that almost will roll my ankle.
Yeah, and then the next year you're like, okay, I'm getting those good ones. And I'm like, told you, man.
Yeah.
The rain gear.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Just
dude,
recently bought the
rain
nice
gear.
rain gear.
Yeah. The
We'll see how it
backpack,
works.
man. Get a good backpack. Like, no, this hiking backpack will be fine.
You said, come on, that's a good hiking backpack.
Yeah. But you went to a better backpack and you like it.
Oh yeah, it's way better.
Yeah. So if you can afford the better stuff, you know, definitely go with higher quality stuff, but don't break the bank and not be able to go hunting, because I think the whole purpose of, you know,
You can go cheap.
the whole purpose of
still go
hunting
cheap.
is to go out there and fill the freezer. I think,
Yep.
you know.
Which
And you don't-
most people, you spend
My dad
10 grand.
Yeah, my dad and my grandpa, you know, they didn't kill elk with $1,000 in gear. They were wearing jeans and flannels and
Still got it done.
yeah. Well, not my dad, but don't tell him that.
Oh no. We'll be telling him this year though.
Yeah, we'll tell him this year. He's gonna go with us, so that's gonna be interesting. This should be fun.
Yeah,
though.
he's
I
got a
think it's
good
gonna be fun.
nickname for me already.
I'm
I'm
glad.
gonna have to come up with one for him.
I know, Crooked Arrow Kenny.
Yeah, I don't know where he got that from.
I swear I didn't tell him that. I promise I didn't. I really didn't.
You're like, how about call him Crooked Arrow Kenny?
No, I didn't. He goes, hey, what's Kenny's phone number? And I sent it over to him. And he goes, okay. And then he sent me a Snapchat of, or not a Snapchat, but a screenshot of his contacts, and it said Crooked Arrow Kenny. And I was laughing.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty good right there. That's a perfect name for you.
I'll just have to wait till the name comes.
Yep. So,
It'll be a good name, I think.
looking at gear, though, let's talk about that a little bit more and break it down. You know, what would you, if, you know, you're starting over right now, what would you buy that's going to be high quality, and what could you go cheaper on?
So I would definitely, after going a few years, rain gear.
Yeah.
Definitely a good pair of rain gear.
Especially if you're hunting over in Western Washington.
Yeah, Western Washington, you need it. We've only had 1 year that it didn't rain.
Yeah.
Actually, it did rain.
And when you don't think it's going to rain, it still rains.
It still rained a little bit,
Yeah.
but and that was the time I was like, I'll just sleep in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And it rained on me.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but it was still.
I remember that.
I woke up in the middle of the night. With
I was sleeping
drops
in your
hitting my eyes.
passenger seat, and you were like, I can't sleep in the truck, man. It's
Dude,
too
it's
uncomfortable.
so uncomfortable. I got a little Nissan Frontier, and it's tiny.
Uh-huh.
Good little hunting rig, but it's just not
It's a
comfortable to
great
sleep
hunting
in.
rig, really. It's a
It's
great
not
rig, right?
good to sleep in. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to sleep in the bed. So I threw all of our gear out,
Yep.
and I just slept in the bed. And probably about 1 a.m., I woke up to just raindrops, and it was the first night I actually was getting some good sleep. I was like, I'm just going to sleep.
Through the
I
rain.
just, I just fell back asleep and woke up, and I was dry.
So rain gear, what else?
Rain
Boots.
gear?
I'd say boots.
Boots, yeah.
Boots are
Don't skip out on boots.
probably top of the list. And the crappy thing about boots, though, is most of the good ones are online.
So you don't
And
even know.
you don't even know how they're going to
Yeah.
fit your foot. So if you can find a store, you know, that sells the higher quality boots.
Yeah, because I got some Crispies.
Crispies are, you know, I got Crispy Nevadas, and I don't think I'd ever buy another boot. I
I
love
got the
them.
Crispy GTXs.
I'm going to be buying my second pair this year.
I might buy another pair.
Crispies?
Yep.
GTXs? Same ones?
No, probably not.
No, different pair. You
Probably
should
buy
try the
a different pair. I'm gonna
Nevadas.
try a different pair.
You should get the Nevadas.
I wanna
They're
try 'em on,
so
though.
comfortable.
I know there's a store up north you can go and
what
try
is
them
it-
on.
What is that store?
Oh,
It's in Mount Vernon.
it's at the gun shop.
It's right next to the gun shop.
Yeah.
I can't remember where.
We'll have to get back to you on that one, but
Yeah.
They're all over the place, but
in Mount Vernon, there's an outdoor store that you can buy high quality boots. You know, actually thinking about it too, what's it called in Everett? There's a
Sportsman's Warehouse.
Sportsman's Warehouse.
I don't know if I've seen a lot of boots there though.
They sell Crispies there.
They do?
They do.
Yeah, I'll have to go check that one out.
I didn't see what other brands they sell there, but I know they sell Crispies there.
Yeah, I'm really picky with my feet.
Yeah, you are.
So, yeah. So
I had to talk you into buying the boots online because you didn't want to.
they're expensive too.
Yeah.
But I got a pair, and then I wish I would have got a bigger pair.
Yeah.
So, because it said, I don't remember what it said, but I'm pretty sure it says run size.
Well, the thing with
So
the
I got
boots
the size.
too is you're always
I wasn't
like,
thinking of socks with it too.
yeah, that's the thing with boots is you never know. Like, you know, you want them to fit tight during early season.
Yep.
When you want to wear a thinner sock, but then if you wear those same boots during the late season, you want to wear a thicker sock because it's cold out.
But I wear thick socks
All the
anytime.
time. Yeah.
So
you should have went a half size bigger. Probably.
half size bigger, but now I've been using them a few years. They're about perfect size now.
Okay, what about optics, rangefinder?
Yes.
You went cheap.
I went cheap.
I told you not to.
I went cheap.
Did you go cheap twice or
I
just
went cheap
once?
twice.
Yeah.
And I should have not went cheap twice because now I'm gonna have to buy another one.
Yep. No, this last one you didn't go cheap.
I went medium cheap.
Yeah.
Which I should have not went medium cheap. I should have went at least one more step further.
So a rangefinder, in my opinion, I think is one of those crucial things because hunting over here on the coast and in western Washington or even in eastern Washington, anywhere, don't matter where it is, but you get a little bit of rain, and if you got a cheap rangefinder, that thing fogs up. Or if it's low light, you don't pick up the animals. It's just frustrating.
So I had a little like $99 Cabela's one.
Yeah. I think it was a Simmons.
No, it wasn't a Simmons.
That's what I have.
It was something else, but it's put away. I still have it, but
do you?
I do. And then it was really good for just like, you know, in your yard, nice sunny day. It works every time.
Yeah, and that's where most of the time we're practicing is when it's nice out and sunny out.
So you don't even know. You're like, oh, this thing works fine.
And then you get out there in the hunting situations and it's like all of a sudden it's low light and raining and you can't pick up a tree that's 20 yards out in front of you.
Yep. So that happened. I was trying to do some range finding and it wasn't working. And you're like, oh, my rangefinder works fine.
Yeah.
So, and that was still my little $99 one or whatever.
See, I went through that same thing too, though. I went cheap with my rangefinder when I bought it, and same thing happened to me.
Yep.
Couldn't pick up stuff. All the water, it wasn't waterproof. It was just... So I recommend if you go and spend some money on something, a rangefinder is one of those ones you probably should spend a little extra bit of money on.
Yeah, because then I went a little more expensive.
Yeah.
But there was like 5 more that were still more expensive. I went with the Vortex 2000 HD.
The Vortex is a good brand.
It's a good brand. And I looked through it in the store, and I looked at the next one. I was like, It was like $100 jump. So I was like, okay, this is like the third highest from the bottom.
Yeah.
And there was like 3 more above that. So I was like, oh, this probably works fine. And I kind of rent better low light. It definitely still works lower lighter.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of fog. And it still wasn't working. Yeah. And yours was working.
Yeah. And I went with the one that was just up from yours.
Yep. So I should have spent another $100 and got the one up. Because I was freaking out. I had service where we were at, so I was messaging tech.
Yeah.
The Vortex tech.
Yeah, you were
trying
not
to say what's
happy.
going on with this.
This bullcrap Vortex, you ruined my elk hunt.
Yeah, ruined my elk hunt. We were in bugling bulls too, and it wasn't working. And I was like, oh, if one comes in,
I don't know. Tell you.
Yeah, you'll have to range it, and that doesn't work. So I was freaking out, and probably going to trade that one in. And
you think you're going to upgrade?
Maybe, probably not. But I should. I should. But I should have just spent that extra $100 the first time, because now I think it was like $400 for that one.
So rain gear, rangefinder, boots. I would say pack is almost up to the point where you really should have good pack. But then again,
it really just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be,
you can still go with a nice Cabela's.
Yeah, you can. I think I think a pack.
Pack.
I don't think you really need to have a really expensive pack. I really don't. I think a day pack and a frame pack can, plenty of animals have been taken out just with those two.
Yep.
I think the ability of the packs that they're making nowadays, like EXO and some of these other brands, like to be able to have a frame on your pack, on your day pack.
I think that's a game changer.
Where if you're a mile in and you kill a deer or whatever, you don't have to hike one quarter out over your shoulder or whatever, and then go get your frame pack and then hike in and get the rest of the animal. You can
Yeah,
throw.
you just have a day pack or whatever.
Yeah, you can throw almost the whole thing on your pack if it's a
you can throw it
deer.
all.
Yeah, and get out.
I threw my whole deer in there.
Yeah, so
Got out of there.
I think it's definitely one of those things where, it's a good thing to have, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's one of those things where if you're a new guy, you should really be spending that much money on a pack.
They are spendy.
Yeah, they're almost like $1,000 now for a good pack.
I think I got my K4 5,000 liter for
like $850.
I got it on sale.
Did you?
It was on sale for like $7.99.
Yeah.
So yeah, $850
So
after tax and everything. But
yeah, but it's one of those things where once you have it and you've used it a couple times, you love it.
oh yeah,
You would never go back. No. So it's one of those things you should definitely.
If anything, I would just try other.
But
big name hunting packs.
I had a couple hiking packs where I've carried out a whole deer on them, like those, those actual hiking packs.
The old frame
the
packs?
old school hiking packs.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, I've carried out a deer in one of those before, and it was not comfortable. It was digging in my hips and killing my shoulders.
Yeah, we went bear hunting, and I just wore just the pack.
Yeah.
And my shoulders were effed up after that.
Yeah.
I had nothing on there.
That same pack, I carried out 110 pounds of blacktail.
Oof.
It was the hide.
How was your
everything.
shoulder after that?
And it was only 1.5 miles in. It was dead. It was
yeah,
terrible.
right away.
It was horrible. I remember it was Thanksgiving morning, and I was in a tree stand, and I got out of the tree stand because I wanted to get back to the house because the wife wanted me home to, help cook and whatnot.
Yep.
And I walking down this logging road, and all of a sudden there's a spike, and I was like, "Oh, you're done for."
You're done for, buddy.
I pulled my bow back, and this is when I had that Hoyt Defiant, and I took a shot and just shot underneath of him, and I'll follow him, and so I chased him in the woods, and I went into this thick crap, and it turned into like a swamp, and I'm walking on a log, crossing a swamp. I'm walking like balancing on this log, and I look up, and this freaking 2-point forky standing out there, like
you're like, ooh, this guy's
20
better.
yards from me. And so
This guy's better than the other one.
I'm like, with no confidence with this bow whatsoever. I'm like, okay, a frontal. That's one of those one shots where it's like, if you could take a frontal, I'll take a frontal any day of the week.
20 yards.
So
Would you do over
deadly.
20?
I would take a frontal out to 30, but definitely nothing more.
But
than
you're
that.
pretty confident with your shooting.
But I'd be confident with the bow. And, with that Defiant, I wasn't confident. But it was in my earlier years of hunting, and I was one of those guys where I was just like, I want to, I got to take this shot because this might be my only opportunity. So, and it worked out. I pulled back, and I settled in, and I let that buck have the arrow, and he didn't go like 20 yards.
Was there a good blood trail?
Oh, it was just everywhere. It looked like you painted the ground.
What broadheads were you using?
Back then, I was shooting...
Were you shooting mechanicals or?
No, I was shooting fixed, and I was shooting. I want to say I was shooting trocar, Muzzy trocars, and I really liked that broadhead. I did, super accurate, good broadhead. But yeah, so I shot that buck, and I found him, and I was 1.5 miles in, and it was raining. And
seems like it's always raining around here.
I didn't have a pack.
No.
So I ended up hiking 1.5 miles out. Get into the car, and where I was hunting, I was only like, maybe 10 minutes from home. So I drive home, grab my pack, get back to the gate.
How was the wife? She's like, oh, you're home.
She was like, you're home. And I'm like, I gotta go. I just killed a buck. And she's
like,
like, really? Good. And so I was like, yeah, Riley, my oldest boy, is like, come on, son, let's go get this deer. And so he goes, okay. So I throw the pack on, and we get up there, we take care of the deer, we load the whole deer up, and we're hiking out, and no joke, on the way down, I'm like, I didn't have trekking poles, but I had 2 sticks. And as
nice sticks.
as I'm walking down this hill, I'm like, just concentrating, and I'm like, oh man, this sucks. It freaking hurts. Gosh dang, I don't want to be here. And my son's like, you all right, Dad? And I'm like, shh, don't talk to me. I'm in my zone right now. I got to get this out of here. This is killing me. And by the time I got back, I was dead. But
you just threw it in the back of the car?
In the back of the car, and then came home and took care of the deer and got it hanging and had Thanksgiving dinner. So it turned out to be a pretty good day.
That sounds like a really good Thanksgiving.
It was, it's the only time I've ever killed a buck in the late season too. I'm going to try to shoot, I'm going to take my bow out during modern this year. I'm going to buy a rifle tag and hunt with my bow out of a tree
How do
stand.
you think that's going to go? Any tactics you're going to use different?
Well, I think I'm still going to do tree stand, and I think, with now that they made baiting illegal, I'm probably just going to be doing a lot of rattling.
Yeah, so here in Washington State, that's where we primarily hunt. they just banned bait.
Yep.
So
no more hunting over apples.
No.
Which
that's a lot of people's go-to.
If you guys have ever hunted a tree stand before, more than likely you guys have been using apples or some sort of a bait like that, and
maybe a salt block or
and they work great. So kind of sucks. Now you got to find a apple tree out in the woods somewhere and hunt over that. Or
I'm actually going to be selling apple trees. So.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Go plant them out in the middle of nowhere.
Before long, they're going to be calling me Crooked Arrow Apple
when
Seed.
we were at the fishing game, the
Hunter's Ed?
The Hunter's Ed, yeah. When we were there, they were talking about the baiting, and one guy raised his hand and goes, "Can I go out and just plant a bunch of apple trees out in the woods?"
What'd they say?
They said no.
What?
They said, yeah, if you do that, you're going to be pretty much considered baiting. So you have to
hunt. If
it's on public land, you'll get in trouble.
You're just planting trees.
Yeah, I don't think they don't look at it that way. But like, especially over in Eastern Washington, if you can get a hold of some of the private land people and knock on some doors and get a permission and hunt over like an apple orchard.
Oh, that's golden.
Yeah, you can. That can be pretty good stuff right there. But for me, I'm gonna buy a rifle tag and I'm gonna hunt with my bow and I'm gonna primarily be just doing some rattling and using my doe bleat.
Yep.
And then last year, I took my son out during rifle and I don't know how the kid didn't get it done.
Because he had a couple opportunities,
there were
didn't he?
bucks everywhere. Yeah. I mean...
It almost seems like right before season, the bucks are everywhere. And then right when the first day opens, they're gone.
Yeah, that's how it always seems.
They vanish. They vanish without a trace.
During that rifle season, I had some cameras out, and I mean, man, there were bucks on them all the time. The one day I told my son, I was like, "Come on, we gotta go hunt, dude. I know it's rough. I know you're tired from school and band and practice and everything else, but let's get this rifle and let's go try to find one." And he's like, "No, Dad, let's just maybe we'll go around noon." And I said, "All right." So we go check the camera in the spot we were hunting.
Yeah.
And literally that morning had a giant 4x4 on camera in the spot that we were gonna go to.
And you would have been there before.
Would have been there probably right when
he was there.
Yeah, because it was like right at first light. It was like a half an hour after first light, about a mile behind the gate.
What did he say about that?
Just my luck. That's how it always works.
Well, that's why the more time you're out in the woods, the better opportunity you're going to get.
You can't kill animals on the couch.
No,
you have to. And even during when you're having bad days, you go 3 or 4 days and nothing's happening. Like our elk hunt last year.
Change in a second.
What about like our elk hunt last year? On the last day, let's skip the part where I took a shot at that bull and missed him. And, all
giant
that.
300-inch.
Yeah, I don't know to show everybody this antler here.
Yeah, we found the shed from the guy.
This bull right here, I took a shot at and missed him at 20 yards because I hit a limb.
Yeah, they should be able to see that.
Oh yeah,
just a little guy.
Yeah, we measured him out, and he's what he come out to be like? If giving him like a...
Depending on what his other side is.
Well, if I remember right, I gave him like an average spread for a Roosevelt, and it came out like 350.
A giant.
That's a huge Roosevelt.
He's a smart guy.
But here's the thing. He's still alive.
Yep, we got him on camera.
And he's on camera, and we have him... he's in the same area, and so we're going to be going back there this year, and I'm going to put some revenge on him.
Yeah.
One of us are.
He's going to be smarter, though.
Either you... or my dad, or me. One of us are going to have to kill him.
Hopefully not the old guy, but...
I told him, I said, if you shoot that bull, I said, I'm going to pay for the taxidermy, and it's going in my house.
Yeah, right away. You're giving him the spot,
yeah.
So...
Yeah, I told him, I was like...
He better just shoot the first cow he sees.
I think he will.
You think so?
I think he will.
You don't think he's like, I want that 350?
No. I think he's going to be opportunist, and anything he can take, he's going to take it legally.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what I did last year with that deer.
I said the same thing I said last year. I'm going to say again this year is I'm going to hold out for the first probably. So we're going for what, 13 days this year?
I'm going for 12.
Yeah,
I got to miss opening day.
Opening day, you're not going to be there. So
yep. I got a birthday party.
I'm not sure.
Don't have your kids in September. Even though he came a month early. So.
But the good thing about having your boy in September is when he gets older, he'll be able to join you.
Yeah, so
and have your birthday while you're out there. That's pretty cool.
That is, yeah.
So, anyway, though, last year...
Well, we got a lot of years before that happens.
Last year I said I wasn't going to shoot any bull, or I wasn't going to shoot any cows, because we're still hunting the cow and bull area. And I said that I wasn't going to shoot any cows until the last, 3 days or
something
last
like
2
that.
days, and then I would take a cow. I'm pretty much going to stick to that plan.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Until one's right there, 20 yards broadside.
opening day. I almost could have killed a cow, but I didn't quite get the shot opportunity. It didn't pan out.
But you were going to.
I was going to. I said I wasn't going to, and I was like, it's too perfect that she's right there in the middle of the road. Why not? You know.
If it doesn't have spots,
Especially
I'm shooting
when
it.
I haven't killed an elk yet.
If it doesn't have spots, I'm shooting it.
We're talking what? How many years now? I think this might be my 8th year, and I haven't killed an elk yet.
Yep.
So we've been getting closer and closer and closer every year.
But you've been mostly road hunting with older guys.
For the last, up until the last 2 years, yeah, pretty much.
I think if you're just road hunting, you got to get real lucky, and it's probably going to take 10 years.
Yeah, I think you could probably, even just walking behind the roads, behind gates.
Yeah.
Walking down roads. I think it's one of those things it can happen.
It happened to us.
Yeah, we were walking out after I missed that 300-incher, and
we were making all
we were
sorts of
talking.
ruckus.
We called our buddy up that left it the day before, and we were telling him about me missing the shot and laughing and having a good time.
Yeah, I was just making random calls.
Yeah, we were like, this has been a great trip, and then all of a sudden, Kenny goes, "Oh, dude,
there's a bull!"
And
we were walking on, making all sorts of noise. And
Yeah.
he just turns around.
100 yards up the road from us, there's a giant, what was he, a 5x5?
Yeah, just a nice 5x5. He seemed pretty big.
It's just a giant body, though.
Yeah, giant body, kind of smaller rack, but
Just standing in the middle of the
legal.
road. So
He was legal.
even though that we say that you probably aren't going to see elk on a road, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. And it's when you're not expecting it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
when it
always
happens,
when
'cause
you're
we were making.
My bow was on my back, and I was like,
Yeah, I still had mine because I was still chasing grouse. So I was like, I'm going to get something.
I've had my bow in my pack 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row I've had an elk out in front of me where I could have maybe took a shot, and my bow was on my pack. So
Yeah.
that's a lesson learned for me.
I guess we'll go into the story. And he was up there like 100 yards. Flowers was still making calls. And we're probably 2 or 3 miles behind the gate still.
Oh, for last year?
Yeah, last year.
Okay.
We're like 2 or 3 miles behind a gate.
Yep.
And that guy is just standing there. I was like, I'm going to try to get him.
Yep.
So I just start running at him. And he's looking at us like, what is going on?
Hey, so give a description of the actual area. So it was a logging road, and then off to the left of the logging road, it was all thick timber, and then on the right side, it was the clear cut, a patch of thick timber.
Clear cut with timber,
Yep.
like 4 or 5 of those.
Yep, and so he actually, instead of going up into the timber, which way he was heading, he turned around and went down into the clear cut.
Yeah, the same way he was coming from.
Where he came from,
Yep.
He went back down that way, and he went like almost the next clear cut over from where we were at. And you booked it down the clear cut.
Yeah, the one that we were at.
Yep, and you were running across it through blackberries.
I was tearing my pants up,
Yeah,
everything.
like a half an hour before dark.
Yeah, half hour at least. And I'm just destroying myself. I busted my knee on a log and didn't care. I was like, I'm going to get this guy. Just smash him.
And I stayed on the road, and I actually, started doing just some light bugles and some cow talk just a little bit, just to try to slow him down and make him kind of second guess what he saw. And he started calling back. He started responding back to me.
I wasn't listening to anything. I couldn't hear nothing.
No, he started bugling.
All I heard was brush.
Yeah, he started bugling back just a little bit, and then it kind of went quiet for a little bit, and I knew you were down in there, and I just kind of let things play out, and then he was coming to you.
Yeah, so I had run through the clear cut.
And then you were in the timber.
I was in the timber, and then I seen him. He went to the next one. So then I ran through another clear cut.
Okay.
And then I got to the next one, and I was set up. He was up on the road and was starting to come down the tree line.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, here we go.
And you were cow calling to him?
I wasn't cow calling yet.
No, not yet?
Not yet. I was just going to wait for him to, because he was going to come 20 yards broadside.
Okay.
And I was going to hit him with a cow call. Something like that. Maybe a little bark. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was going to do in the moment, but I had no plan. And I was just like, he's going to be 20 yards. I range find that right where he's coming down.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, a truck just comes smashing down the driveway.
Yep.
Down the logging road. And I was like, what is going on here?
So it was a gated road, and the people that came down the road had permission. They had keys, and
they had keys.
They were allowed to come down there and They were coming in there to, to see if they could hear any bugles back in there.
Yep.
They were totally fine to do it.
They didn't know we were out there hunting
Yeah,
or anything. They had no idea. So
it was the last day and the last half an hour. The chances of people being back there was pretty slim. But
and there's multiple gates, and they went to a gate that nobody was there.
Yeah.
So they didn't know we were even in there. They're like, "Oh, nobody's in here. We'll go in."
Yeah.
But
because we were behind a second gate.
Yeah, we were behind the second gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the elk was just coming down. He was probably about 40 yards from me, but there was timber here, and right when that truck just started smashing down, the elk looked at them and then just bolted across for some reason. You would think he would just keep running down.
And I was
he bolted across. I was like, oh, there he goes.
I was on the road and the truck pulls up to me and they're like, how's it going? And I have this giant antler on my back and I'm like,
we just found it.
I'm like, yeah, it's going pretty good. My buddy's right down here. He's about to kill a bull, I think. And he goes, oh, well, if he does, let us know. We'll help you pack him out.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah. And he goes, you find that shed back here? And I said, maybe.
Possibly I did.
I said, yeah, I found it. And I kind of slung him a little bit of a lie and told him I found it about 3 miles away from where we really were.
That's probably about how far we were though when we found it.
Well, so I told him I told him it was like another 2 miles past that, across the creek and over into another drainage.
It was a crap hole.
Yeah.
Wherever you want.
I was like, yeah, there's a giant bull back there. If you guys want to go kill him, you definitely can.
Yeah, they were bigger fellows, so they probably weren't hiking.
It's very obvious that he's still alive because he's on my cell cam for sure.
Yep. So that got boogered up real fast.
Yeah, that sucked.
I was a little down in the ditch after that.
Yeah, you were actually really not happy at all.
No. Still am not, but
but what do? You can't.
Yeah, they didn't mean to.
It's public land.
They didn't mean to.
It happens.
If they would have known we were back there, they would have waited. But that's what happens on public land.
Yeah.
OTC.
Mm-hmm.
You're fighting the elements and you're fighting the other hunters. Because there's many times where we've called in hunters.
A couple times.
Yep. Even do it for fun sometimes.
We did. Yeah, we definitely did.
Make them go through some marshlands.
Yep. He came down. Do you guys hear that bull? No.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. Ah, there's a bull down in here. We've been bugling at you. You guys have been the ones bugling? Yeah, that was me. Oh, you guys suckered us down in here.
Well, have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day. We'll go this way.
Bull crap with them for a while, and
yeah,
it's always fun talking to hunters when they're out there.
It is fun talking about it. It's nice to see them out there too, though. Like actually down off a road.
Yeah.
Anytime I run into somebody that's out there in the woods, I'm like, right on, that's cool.
Yep. Which, when you're actually down in the crap holes, you don't see as many people. You really just don't.
No. Even though there's cars driving on the roads everywhere and people parked at every gate.
Yep.
It's like you get a couple miles off of a beaten path and next thing you know, there's no one around.
Let's just say where we're hunting. Probably in different units.
It's different
everywhere. It's different everywhere, but...
Well, where we hunt, there's not a ton of pressure.
Not too much.
I would say...
Well, that first year we went there,
yeah,
there was like
over on the
7
coast?
or 8... No, the unit we were in.
Oh, the one
there was like 7 or 8
yeah.
cars at that gate.
Yeah.
Which, that's a lot of pressure back there. But are they dropping in, or are they just walking those 10-mile long logging roads?
Well, I'm gonna say it again, like I've said it in the past too, and I think, when it comes to elk hunting, if your calling is not dialed in, you can spot and stalk them, but not over here on the coast and on Western Washington. You can't. You can get lucky in a clear cut and spot and stalk them. I almost did with Mariah.
Yep.
Those 2 bulls that were down in there, but
one of those was a big boy.
That was luck. It wasn't we didn't make it happen. I think if you want to make it happen,
a lot of hunting is luck.
Yeah, but if
you also put the skill in.
I was gonna say, I think if you really want to make it happen and you want to get in opportunities, you got to be dialed in with your calling.
I think so.
I think that makes a giant difference, and I think that the elk know the difference between somebody that knows what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're doing it, when to say it, why to say it. I think they know, and I think it makes a big difference.
Like with that big bull, that took 2 hours of calling to get that guy to come in.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little longer.
And we put a lot of pressure on him.
We put a lot of pressure. We would get him, and then he would go 50 yards.
Yeah.
We'd go another 50. He'd go another 50. But he would always be coming back.
Yeah, he was
in each of those, because he wanted
to come in, but he didn't want to.
Because we were directly in his bedroom. If we were somewhere else, he would have just left.
Yeah, we got in that bull's bedroom and we just started lip balling him and just letting him know that you know,
this is my house.
This
now.
is mine. We're taking over this area. This
He's
is
such
no
a big
longer.
bull. He's like, is this guy bigger than me?
Yeah.
In my own bedroom? So he was kind of like, what's going on here, you know? But he's a smart bull.
He was. He's a good bull.
And then even when he came out, he still didn't come out.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He came out.
He came out, but
There was one shooting lane, and where he came out, the shooting lane that I had, which I had a decent shooting lane, and there's a trail coming up to it, but he decided not to come up the trail. He stayed in the thick stuff.
He went right through the bush.
And came up
right
out of the thick
bush.
stuff. And I had a shot like this big. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take that shot.
Yeah.
And I'm 20 yards. And I'm like, pull the trigger. And it happened so fast that I didn't know what happened.
Yeah, there was one branch that was going down the middle of the
and my arrow deflected.
Right onto it.
And, you know, we never found that arrow at all.
No. But he's on camera, so you didn't get him.
Yeah. Well,
so
I mean, obviously.
That arrow could have been anywhere.
And then we found a dead cow like freaking, 40 yards away from where that bull was at?
Yep.
And
we're walking up on it, and you're like, this isn't my bull.
It was weird, dude, because it was like we were looking for the arrow, and we were doing circles, looking for blood.
We were like, oh, he's down.
Yeah, we were doing circles, looking for blood, looking for my arrow. Couldn't find nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Probably looked for 3-4 hours.
Yeah, and...
This was 12 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah.
It was early.
And the time that we found the shed, and then like 10 minutes later, we're walking up on dead cow.
Yep.
We're like, what the heck? I mean, I wish I would have flipped her over to see if she's been shot by something, but
yeah,
she was stiff and she had maggots and she was there for a while. So, yeah. And then when that was the last day, we had to get out of there. So we ended up pulling out, and we'll go back again this year and look for him.
We got vengeance. We need to get that big guy, or any of his relatives. It don't matter.
Yep.
Maybe his little sister. If it doesn't have spots, I'm shooting it.
I believe that. I seen your.
I'm not a trophy hunter.
No. Well, it's really about the meat.
Yeah.
And
at the end of the day, it's about the meat.
If I get in there and we get back in there, and I know, even though knowing that bull's still alive,
it's gonna be really hard not to shoot the first one.
Yeah,
though.
if I get a 3x3 that walks by, I'm gonna let him eat an arrow because I still haven't shot my first elk yet, and it needs to happen.
Yes, it does.
And it's gonna happen
this year.
Yeah, I really do think it's gonna.
I do
for
too.
Sure.
We've been putting in a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been going back to the same unit, so we know the unit now.
That helps a lot.
We know where the elk move, all their bedrooms. We know we got it dialed in.
Yeah, that's
for
one
the
thing.
most part.
That's one thing I tell you listeners out there, that if you're just getting into archery hunting or any kind of hunting, rifle, whatever you want to choose to do is fine. When you pick an area, learn that area. Give that area a year. Give it 2 years, maybe. Give it some time to really put some effort into learning it, and learn where those animals like to bed, where they like to feed.
Yeah, feed.
Learn all that stuff. And I'm not talking just elk. I'm talking for deer, or if you want to hunt bear, learn what they're feeding on that time of year, and really put some effort into that area, because that's what's going to pay off.
It does.
Learning that area. And don't jump around. Like, even if you go in and you get lucky and you shoot a deer the first year, go back next year.
Yep. Well, I know where all the deer live now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is I think learning the unit is, or whatever area you're hunting, is half the battle. Once you learn it, it's like, man, now I know
Much
exactly
easier.
how they...
Yep. That's why I wish I would have started hunting way earlier.
Yeah.
If I would have started when I was like 18.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I could have 18 years of experience that's gone.
I look back at all those years I missed out on.
Yeah.
Like all through high school and then my early 20s. I was like, man, what was I thinking?
That could have been like 6 or 7 new spots that you have dialed in too.
Yeah. But it just, I don't know. I got busy with life and I got really into cars and we had kids and then,
The kids is a big thing, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Once you have kids, it's game off almost.
Yeah. I mean,
the women don't like you hunting after that, for the most part.
Well, they, when they're babies like that, they really like you at home to help them because they're always going through so much. So it's understandable.
Yeah, the last 3 years I've had babies at home.
But when you get bit by the hunting bug, it's hard because it's one of those things. It's
like a tick.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go away. You get the Lyme disease, but it's the elk disease. I
love fishing and I love hunting, and with how much fishing and hunting I do, and I have 4 kids at home, I had to choose between fishing or hunting because I can't be gone every weekend either fishing or hunting, and so because it takes too much time from kids and the wife, and anytime I could get the kids out with me I would, but so I just chose put the fishing poles away for now and I think I'm going to hunt until my legs won't take me, and after that I'll buy a boat, and I'll sit in my boat and drive around and troll.
Yeah, troll.
Yeah,
troll
I think that's what I'll do.
I like power bait fishing, but...
I'll wait until I'm, old and my back hurts too bad to be able to pack animals out, and then I'll go buy me a boat and go fishing.
Or your boy will be old enough to pack them out for you, like your dad's going to make you do this year.
I'll push that out, yeah. Yeah, I'll push.
Hey, you want to bring this 50-pound block down there for me?
Yeah, my dad, jeez.
Yeah, it's not even allowed no more, so... Sorry, Jim.
He's a good guy, but...
I want to hear some of his hunting stories. We got to do a podcast with him.
Oh, we will. For sure we will. Definitely will. We got to do one with him. We might do one with him when we're actually at camp.
That would be a good one.
So we're going to have to do some more of these podcasts. This is fun. I think we're going to have to do some calling ones for sure.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely some calling ones. Maybe we'll do those. We got your uncle we'd like to get on.
Yep.
He's all about conservation and everything else. That'd be fun to do that. So we'll reach out and see if we can get some random
people in here, yep.
It'd be kind of fun.
We'll have to get another chair in here.
That's fine.
Maybe move this big table out of the way.
Tell all these...
Maybe get a little fireplace back here.
Tell all these cars that are driving by if they can just quiet down a little bit.
We're trying to podcast here.
Yeah, we're out here in my studio gym, and it doesn't have no insulation, and the walls are...
Yeah, it's very chilly. I don't know if you can see our breath.
It ain't that cold out here.
I see my breath.
Can you?
A little bit.
That's probably from your hot coffee.
It's not that hot no more.
Well, what do you think? We should wrap it up?
I think so.
I think people need to get out there and hunt if you can. It's a lot of fun, and...
It is.
Anytime you can put meat in your freezer and, eat that meat that you provided for your family, it's a good feeling. And it
really is.
It's not cheap, but it's just a good feeling.
But you can get into it cheap.
And I think
just, if you don't want to, you can go a little more expensive.
I think people should get into it, even if it's, on the cheaper side.
Yeah, because then you can realize if you're going to actually want to do it.
If I had to go back and say, okay, I can either hunt with super cheap gear or not go hunting at all because the gear is too cheap, I'm going to go with cheap gear every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
If I can't afford...
There's nothing wrong with a little cheap Cabela.
If I couldn't afford really nice rain gear to go hunt, I'm going to buy a poncho. And I'm going to go hunting.
Well.
Or I'm going to go hunting with extra clothes and be wet and miserable because I love the hunting so much.
Well, last year I bought some medium cheap Cabela's rain gear.
Last year we got wet.
I didn't get wet, so I was dry.
Actually, I didn't really get wet either. My feet got wet.
It kept me super dry, but I would have been better off with a tarp around me with how loud they were.
Yeah.
I was like, it's scaring all the elk away. Even though we were still in bugles every day.
Yeah. Last year was a good year.
It's still, you can still do it, but I had to trade those back in. Mm-hmm. Now, Cabela's does have a really good return policy, so I will give them that.
So we'll wrap this up with a couple questions. You got a couple for me?
Not
or
really.
You got just one?
Well, I already asked it.
You already asked me a question?
Yep.
Without even telling me?
Yeah.
When?
At the beginning.
What'd you ask me?
What got you into hunting?
That's the question you were talking about that I was going to be surprised by? Okay. That's fair enough. I got one question for you then.
Okay, let's see if I can answer it.
You probably will. I hope you will.
Hopefully.
What has been your absolute favorite either hunt or hunting moment so far since we started?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there's quite a bit of them.
You got to pick one.
Pretty much.
Just one moment that's that maybe not got you absolutely hooked, but just like the most memorable moment or the one that just you really got you excited.
I think it was probably just when that big guy was bugling at me like 40 yards in front of me.
Last year?
Yep. And it was the first time I was actually close in front of one.
Yeah.
And I could actually feel the base from him going. And I was like, holy crap, this is a dinosaur out here.
I think
an actual dinosaur.
One of my they're like freaking T-Rexes out there. They're loud.
I never got to see him, but I could feel him.
I think I would say he's probably top last year. That encounter with him was amazing. All the lip balls and just the craziness of it, the chuckles and his bugle and everything. But I think one of the funnest ones, looking back, would have to be what was it, 2 days before that when that bull barked at you and I was calling him in for you, and you were down in that bottom and he just needed to come like an extra 20 yards.
Yep.
And I was calling for you when he barked at you, and then
that's what I was talking about.
Oh, right. That one.
That same, yeah, because he was about 40 yards from me.
Oh, okay.
Through the brush.
Yeah.
And I could feel him.
Not the last day.
Not the last day.
But the couple days before that.
A couple days before that when we ran into him.
That's what I was going to say. That day right there was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, I think that's what got Adam hooked too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Because I think that was his first time hearing bugles.
When that bull was lip balling and chuckling when he was that close, it sounded crazy.
Yeah, and you could actually feel it in your chest with how close he was.
And especially over there in the, on this side of the mountains where it's freaking super thick and they're only 20 yards out in front of you.
Yeah, he's 40-ish from what I was guessing, and
it's crazy.
Still couldn't see him, but I could feel him.
It's crazy how loud they are.
Yep.
But yeah, that guy, when he barked and the lip balled and took off, that was pretty cool.
It was.
It was fun.
Very memorable.
All right, so let's wrap this up. If you guys got any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and maybe our next podcast we can run through some of those questions and answer them.
We'll try to do our best.
Yeah, it'll be kind of fun to run through some questions and answer them, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, so until then.
We don't have a catchphrase yet. So
no.
Until then,
go buy yourself, go through Hunter's Ed and get yourself go out there and buy yourself a bow or a rifle and get out there and start practicing with it. And
preferably a bow.
Right now is the time of year where you can start planting your next hunt and definitely get out there and do it.
Do some scouting. Get out there and scout.
All right, everybody.
Until next time.
See you guys.
Later.